Welcome to the Life Brand Management Podcast with your girl, Brittany, hey, aka BC Starks, and I'm back with another episode. As we always do on my podcast, it's not scripted, it's not even planned, but I did want to hop on today to talk about a subject that I had some experience with more recently, and I heard someone phrase it in a way that I think sums it up pretty much. And what you'll find is that by the time you're done listening to this podcast, you may be walking around calling yourself a new name, a new nickname, because I hope that you get some inspiration from it as I did. So that topic that I'm talking about tonight, the phrase is divine impatience. Divine impatience. And the way that this person described it, I can't recall exactly who it was, but the way he described it was literally based off of the teachings of Neville Goddard. And divine impatience for him, when he broke it down, was pretty much when you are on your manifestation journey and you have moments where you're looking for evidence in your 3D reality, or you're possibly doubting what you're doing, or you're just not feeling really patient. You're feeling like, where's my stuff? When is this going to happen? I've been persisting. You know, we all come across moments like that. And hopefully for you, it doesn't last longer than just a few moments. And if you're someone who's struggling and you find that it is lasting past a few moments, I do recommend that you stay tuned for this podcast, but also you may want to get some supplemental help, such as hiring a coach. But back to the topic of divine impatience, he said it's pretty much giving yourself permission to experience whatever the wish fulfilled is, but from within. And that is through the use of imagination. Again, if you are not new to Neville Goddard's teachings, he is the godfather of law of assumption. He is the godfather of teaching that imagination creates, and that famous law of reversibility, where he talks about how if a circumstance can produce an emotional and mental state, then the inverse is possible, where an emotional and mental state can then produce a circumstance, which is why we always talk about circumstances not mattering. With that being said, this divine impatience implies that instead of feeling a way about not having your desired manifest yet, instead of looking for it externally, instead of feeling lackful, you give yourself permission to experience it within. And he calls it divine impatience because you kind of want to treat it as if you're, maybe my term for it now is treat it like you're a divine brat. You know what I mean? If you're looking for it, give yourself permission to experience it within. And if you've listened to any of my previous podcasts, then you know that I'm a huge fan of inner conversations. I find that they are very effective in filling in those gaps, those moments when I am feeling impatient, or I do have doubt creep up from time to time, or I question, what am I really doing? When I have those moments, I think because I've been practicing inner conversations lately, it's not very long after I have a moment like that I'll then think to myself, just having a conversation. What would it feel like if you were having this conversation with this person? Or what would it feel like if you heard that person tell you this thing, or validated whatever it is that you're experiencing? Or if I want an apology from someone, what would it feel like if I got that apology? And then how would I move forward? Like giving yourself the opportunity to allow your imagination to go wild with solutions, right? Because the reason we're looking for evidence on the outside is because we're allowing our imaginations to run wild with the lack of having it, with the lack of solutions, aka focused on the problem. And imagination creates. So if you're looking for the problem, you're only going to experience more of that, right? Rather than if you entertain the solution, And if the law of reversibility is a thing, focusing on the solution will eventually push out or render you the solution, aka your wish fulfilled. I thought this was such a cool concept when I first heard it. But it just so happened that I was having a moment of sorts. And so when I'm having a moment, I tend to do things or dig in my bag of tools or find, some solace in my routine. So I was going for a walk earlier today. And as I was going for a walk, instead of allowing my mind to drift into all the things that I did not like, I just decided to entertain solutions. So I gave myself the space to have an imaginal act about things being resolved, hearing from the people that I needed to hear from in order to confirm that the solution has already happened, right? Neville talks about inner conversations of living in the end. So I'm not messing with the middle. I'm not caring about how it happens. What I'm hearing in my inner conversations are people confirming that it has already happened. They're saying things like, isn't it wonderful that this is now, a thing? Aren't you so happy? And I'm responding back, yeah, man, like this is a long time coming. I'm so proud of myself for sticking to it. It just feels so good. And, this is what inner conversations can do for you. And as you're having the conversation, what you'll notice, if you get nothing else from it, is that you will feel better. You'll feel better. You'll stop looking. You'll stop needing, because what it does is it tricks your subconscious mind into thinking that you already have it. So you'll already feel soothed. You'll already feel neutral or maybe even happy. And that is the beauty of an inner conversation. You are literally not only planting a seed, and as Neville likes to say, persisting in the wish fulfilled, by taking your mind or your imagination to the end and living there in that moment, but you are also regulating your emotional system or your nervous system, because instead of freaking yourself out, feeling low vibrational emotions, as you have an inner conversation, you start to feel good, as if you have already solved your problem, as if you are already living your answered prayers. Guys, I really hope that some of you, or any of you, or all of you listening, will try this out. Try it for yourself. As you know, I am a huge fan of Neville Goddard. I have been studying his works as of late, and I think in studying his works as of late, not only do I read, but I do my best to apply, because as he says, everyone must experience scripture for himself. You must experience the word. You must be a demonstrator of the word, not just a hearer. You got to be a doer. And so for me, it's been really holding myself accountable to be that. I'm not just hopping on a podcast to talk about what you should do. I'm literally living it. And as you listen in, you're hearing me share some of my experience with it. And as I continue to grow in my practice, I'm finding that conviction of mine is growing stronger and stronger. There was another thing that I shared, another excerpt from Neville that I shared in my other social media platforms, but where Neville talks about the essence of prayer is faith, but faith without understanding lacks its active quality that makes it, sustainable for a conviction. And so when you gain understanding for what your process is, and I think truly understanding grows through actual experience. Like, you don't fully understand something until you experience it. You can talk about it in theory all day, but again, you won't understand it unless you walk through it yourself and you experience it on your own. So that's what grows your understanding for it. So for me, I feel like a combination of reading, constantly studying, but then taking it into my everyday reality by practicing. That is what builds my faith. And so the more I practice, the stronger my belief grows in the practice, and trusting myself and knowing that everything that I set out and I intend for is already mine. It's already happened because I give myself the experience of it. I'm a divine, impatient person or a divine brat, so to speak, because I don't have to wait for anything. That's the other thing. Like, we talk about divine impatience because patience implies that you're waiting for something. It implies that the thing hasn't come yet and you're just tolerating or just putting up with whatever is happening in the meantime. But the reality is you don't have to wait for anything. You can give yourself the experience of it right now, this very moment. You can close your eyes and imagine what it would feel like if your wish were fulfilled or if your prayer were answered. And therefore, you're not practicing patience. Maybe on the surface, in the 3D, it looks like patience. But what you're practicing is not needing it. And that's what allows it to come in when you don't need it, when you're not attached to it. So being divinely impatient or being a divine brat is actually extremely beneficial, and it's also the thing that Neville encourages us to do anyway when he says persist. Frequently occupying the state of the wish fulfilled, frequently pretty much being divinely impatient as often as possible, giving yourself a taste of the reality at every turn. As you continue to frequent that state, it eventually will push out because you will have given yourself the naturalness of experiencing it. It will feel natural. You'll practice it so much that it will feel so natural to you internally. Your subconscious won't know you never experienced it. So when it actually does become an experience on the outside, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no novelty to it. It's not new. You're not new to this. You're true to this. And so that's what you want to do. You want to give your wish fulfilled a tone of naturalness. And that's the beauty of being divinely impatient. Give it to yourself right now. You don't have to wait to feel it. You don't have to wait to feel what it feels like to be rich. Give it to yourself right now. How would you be spending your money? How would you be, feeling in your day-to-day living? Like, how would you carry yourself? What would be your daily activities? Give yourself that experience now. Be a divine brat. You want it now? Have it now. Give it to yourself right now. You don't have to wait. And what I'm finding is as I continue to do that, I'm soothing all the emotions that come up from feeling like I don't have it. Literally in that moment. And it doesn't have to take long. It could be a 30-second, a 10-second. Anything that validates that what you wish has already happened is enough. But you got to frequent it. You got to be divinely impatient all the time. Or as often as you can, right? Frequency matters. Repetition matters. And so that's what I wanted to get onto tonight's podcast or today's podcast, whenever you are listening. That's what I wanted to talk about. And I hope this message resonates. I hope you find it helpful. It definitely helped me when I first heard it, which is why I returned to it today. And it's now why I'm sharing it in this episode. So thanks so much for tuning in. Before I go, I'd like to share again about my online course, the Intentional Creation course, where I share lots of information about different techniques. I share my personal journey with having exercised many of the techniques and having experienced success. And I am helping mentor you along your journey of intentionally creating the life that you desire and deserve. No more stuckness, no more cycles that no longer serve us. It's time to thrive, not just get by or survive. We know how to do that very well, but it's thriving season. So I'm here, www.bcstarkspr.com to learn more. In other ways, find me on YouTube or any other social media platform at BC Starks or at Your Manifesting Mentor. Until next time, toodles.